LA Noire was released back in 2011 on the PS3, 360, and the PC, putting gamers in the role of an LAPD officer set in the 1940s. Rather than being a crazy open world, LA Noire was more organized in structure, taking you on investigations rather than crazy heists. This remaster keeps the same gameplay for the most part while adding in some graphical improvements and portability on the Switch. LA Noire has you play as Cole Phelps, an LAPD patrol officer. Our story takes place in the City of Angels during the 1940s, where Phelps and his partner are cracking down murder cases. Shortly after cracking down a big case, Phelps is promoted to detective and assigned a new partner with this position. Cole is a man with ambitions, and those ambitions is what gets him to rise up in the ranks rather than the urge to help citizens of Los Angeles. He may be the protagonist, but he's not a spotless hero by any means. The story will take you on his journey of climbing the rank of detective as you begin to see where his new job takes him, at times revealing some hidden truths about the man you're playing as. It's a mostly engaging story that I think owes it to the cast of characters for giving out not just good performances, but believable performances. When a game story revolves so much around solving murders and interrogating suspects, you really do need to believe those suspects are like real people to fully get immersed into the story. And luckily, the game does a pretty good job at that. LA Noire may come from publisher Rockstar, but it's a very different type of open world from GTA. Rather than going on crazy heists, shooting down people, or stealing cars, you're on the opposite side of the equation. You're the law. LA Noire still has an open world, but it's much more of a murder mystery game than what you would expect from a GTA game set in the 1940s. The gameplay structure is pretty straightforward, and it can be a bit predictable at times. You'll quickly have a gist of how things work. The game will throw you into missions in the form of cases. These cases can be broken down into investigating a crime scene, and here you'll look for clues, question the witnesses, and try to get an idea of what occurred. From there, you'll be sent to investigate different leads, and there you'll get more clues that will eventually lead to the arrest of the suspect. With all your information and clues at hand, you'll begin to interrogate the suspect, and this is actually where you'll find a few changes in the remaster. Previously, LA Noire used a truth, lie, and down system, but that's been completely replaced with a good cop, bad cop, and accused system. It's a minor change in the names of the previous options, no actual gameplay change. The change itself is supposed to make it a bit more clear as to how your character will respond when you choose said option. However, I still found these newer options to be pretty vague. At times, the bad cop option could mean anywhere between I don't believe your story or I'm going to threaten you with violence if you don't answer me correctly. The choices are just on a broad spectrum of options, and it's difficult to narrow down just how the reaction will be. So while the whole choice system is still a bit odd, the actual performance of the actors and interrogations are solid. If you played Danganronpa before, it's sort of a similar system. You'll interrogate the suspects and either agree or contest their statements using clues you discovered throughout your investigation. During these interviews, you can look up and pay attention to how the suspect is acting, and you'll notice a bit more detail in their eyes and facial expressions. You're supposed to judge how these suspects are acting and use that information to find their tell. Basically learn if they're telling the truth or not. It's a pretty unique system that you don't really realize how unique it is until you've played the game. So that's the basic structure of the gameplay, and while it is fun, it can quickly become repetitive. You start to feel like you're in a schedule. There's a total of 21 cases in the main game ranging from 30 minutes to an hour each. The DLC cases that were released after the first game was released are in this remaster too. There is a small amount of scenarios that changes up the structure of the gameplay, and they're definitely the high points of the game, but for the most part the repetitive gameplay is the main game. There are side things for you to do like respond to police calls, which traditionally just have you chasing down somebody or stopping a bank robbery, or check out the landmarks in LA. Actually, let's talk about the setting because boy did they nail it. I've lived in LA for the last few years of my life, and it's pretty darn cool to see the historical parts of the city faithfully recreated in this time period. Different landmarks like Union Station and the Egyptian Theater are all part of this game and part of a larger scavenger hunt to sort of find the landmarks in the city. It's a fun thing to do on the side when you want to break away from the missions and just explore the city. LA Noire on the Switch is certainly interesting. At points it can be one of the sharpest looking games on the system, and at other times it can be one of the slowest games on the system. When you play it in dock mode, the game targets 1080p 30, and when in handheld mode it's 720p 30. LA Noire looks pretty darn sharp on both handheld and dock mode, but it suffers from frame rate issues because of it. I noticed that frame rate drops were more consistent in dock mode rather than in handheld mode, though they're definitely found in both types of gameplay. The frame rate drops typically come in the form of gameplay slowdown, but also certain elements just stick out more than others. For example, the frame rate of reflections on your car are noticeably slower than everything else in the game. The graphical drawbacks don't stop there though. View distances are cut back and you can see objects sort of morph into place as you drive down the streets. NPCs also render in at what looks like half the frame rate when they're far away, but then they completely render in as you get closer to them, sort of similar to how Odyssey handled NPCs in its game. All of these visual issues tend to come up when you're driving around the city. When you're outside of the car, they're less common, but they're still certainly there at times. LA Noire has a lovely list of tracks that completely sell the feeling of living in Los Angeles during the 1940s. Much like other Rockstar titles, there's a few licensed tracks here and there, but also some original songs created by the same musical team behind the music in Red Dead Redemption. What I like more than the actual songs though is how they're used. While you're investigating a crime scene, the game will play song cues to let you know you're done collecting clues. The way short little snippets of music sort of just push you in the right direction is a nice little touch. That, alongside the use of HC Rumble that activates when you're near a clue, while the use of subtle hints just comes off really well done. LA Noire on the Switch isn't just a straight port. It should be noted that Rockstar has worked on improving the game for the Switch. They didn't just grab the last gen version of the game and put it on the system. The visuals have been improved, the DLC has been added, and the whole system of interrogations has been slightly rewritten with the new accused, bad cop, and good cop system. There's even some use out of the more gimmicky features of the Switch that surprisingly feel pretty good. You can use the touchscreen to flip around clues and navigate towards other clues. So Rockstar has definitely put in some work into this port of the game, but it's certainly a game that pushes the Switch to its limits, and you can pretty much see it anytime you're driving around a busy section of the game. Those driving sections are pretty minimal parts of the game though. The real big part is the investigating and the interrogations, and that's what this game pretty much nails with this port. As far as ports go, I think LA Noire on Switch, much like the Doom port, has some imperfections brought upon the limits of the hardware, but it's still a solid recreation of the original game that in some aspects are actually better than the previous generation counterparts. LA Noire was a mostly solid game when it came out in 2011, and now it's gotten some slight technical improvements with added portability on the Switch. The gameplay issues that the original game had, like repetitive case structure, is still there, but I think the title is still one enjoyable adventure worth going into if you haven't experienced the game before. If you played this game before on other platforms, I don't think that $50 price tag is worth double dipping just to play it on the go. That does it for my review of LA Noire on the Nintendo Switch. I did ask you guys on Twitter which version you guys wanted me to pick up, and 70% of you guys said Switch, so that's why this review is on the Switch version instead of the whole 4K remaster ones. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button. If you have any questions about the game, feel free to ask me in the comment section down below. And thank you all very much for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.